Hi guys, it's Julie and we are live. All right, so it looks like Wednesdays are going to become my regular Facebook Live video night. I'm just kind of adjusting where my camera is. Somehow my tripod seems to be a different size. Either that or I grew a few inches, which I would not mind. I've always wanted to be about 5'10", but that's just me. Okay, so before I just go on to a ramble, why don't we get into the topic of this live broadcast, which is FODMAP cooking tips, or actually meal planning tips, for FODMAP foodies. So I'm not just gonna say make a casserole and eat it for 4 days. I am gonna give you tips that are not your mama's meal planning tips to get a lot of variety and a lot of flavor into your meals and not get bored and kind of encourage those creative juices in the kitchen, okay? So I'm gonna get started, and if you have questions, whenever you hop on, feel free to ask a question. I'll try to recap as I go a little bit, and I'll also try to make this short and sweet so you can get back to your night. So thank you so much for hopping on, and yeah, feel free to just pop a question in the chat at any time. Oh, and I will preface this by saying I'm talking about meal planning because I have a workshop coming up next week. If you purchase the deluxe bundle of my cookbook, this is part of that bundle. So you've already gotten an email. If you haven't gotten it, check your email or contact me. I'll be sending it out again to make sure everyone gets signed up and notified about the workshop. And if you haven't bought it, there's still time to get the deluxe bundle on my website, calmbellykitchen.com. Okay, so let's get started with meal planning tips for foodies, okay? So the first one I have is to choose a sauce-based recipe and use the sauce in multiple ways. So for example, a really simple example, you can make a tomato veggie sauce. So let's say a can of tomatoes, some chopped zucchini, some shredded carrots, some spices, some garlic oil, you've got a beautiful sauce. Make sure you've got enough of that for 2 meals, whether you're cooking for 1 or 2 or 4 people. Make sure you've got enough for 2 dinners. And one night you can have it with pasta. You can add ground meat to it, make a meat sauce with pasta. The next night you do something totally different with this sauce. You just serve it over, say, grilled shrimp, or what was my other example? I've got notes here that I'm looking at. Or you could serve it over roasted potatoes and top it with a poached egg, and that would be like a perfect Meatless Monday kind of a meal. So look for meals with sauces, or just make up your own sauces, really. I mean, with a can of tomatoes or some sauteed veggies, you can do just about anything, and always double up. So there you've got like room to be creative. Okay, so my next meal planning tip for foodies who wanna eat low FODMAP and not get bored is to follow the second night salad rule, okay? And this one's a pretty simple one. It's probably also self-explanatory by the name, but what I mean is that every time you cook a protein, even if it's a vegetarian protein, let's say it's a whole chicken, let's say it's a pork shoulder, let's say it's a big salmon fillet, again, make sure you have enough for 2 nights worth of meals, and pick up some kind of green and some kind of salad veg and make a salad the second night. Now, let's say the first night you're serving a really simple, like traditional kind of meal. Let's say you're doing salmon, quinoa, and roasted zucchini, okay? So you do that, and then you've picked up some, let's say, radicchio and kale. Let's say you get like really exotic with your greens, and you're gonna go radicchio kale salad the next night. So you add your salmon to that, you add any leftover roasted zucchini, maybe you picked up some tomatoes to throw in there, and then you add some extra quinoa too. So you've got this really hearty meal in a salad. And always change up those greens, you know, there's endive, there's frisee, there's all the lettuces and the baby lettuces. So you can have different things every night, even if you are just following that protein and then salad pattern. Okay, so to recap, my meal planning tips for FODMAP foodies, the first one is to choose sauce-based recipes and repurpose the sauce. And the second one is to do a protein one night and then do a creative salad the next night. So that's where we are now. If you're on live, feel free to ask questions. And of course, if you're missing this, you can always rewatch it. I'll be posting it, or it'll be in our group. Okay, so my third tip for meal planning ahead and getting variety in your life, because we all need that. Low FODMAP can get boring, but it does not have to be, okay? And it's my mission to try to help you with that. So the third one, and this is one of my favorites, is that every time you go shopping and buy a bunch of food for a week or for a few days, choose one flavor profile. Okay, so what I mean is, let's say I go shopping today, it's Wednesday, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go Southeast Asian for the next 3 or 4 days. So I would buy a pile of lemongrass, some ginger, some mint, some scallions. What else do I have? Make sure I've got fish sauce. And the great thing about this strategy is that you buy all those staple flavor ingredients for your Southeast Asian food, and you're saving money because you're not gonna buy a bunch of cilantro and then use it once and let it rot in the fridge. You're gonna use it for meals for 3 or 4 nights. So let's say you've got all those Southeast Asian ingredients. You could make, let's say you've got coconut milk. You could make white fish poached in lemongrass, coconut milk, and ginger one night. And then the next night you could do, you could do a marinade. You could like grind up all those ingredients that I just mentioned, lemongrass, ginger, coconut milk, and turn it into a marinade with fish sauce, and do that with like chicken chunks and make chicken skewers and grill it. So you've got a completely different meal the next night, but it's still that Southeast Asian profile. And if we want to just keep on going, if I can find my place, I can't find my place, that's okay. But so then you can keep going. You can, what could you do? You could make a coconut milk dip with a little fish sauce and some scallions, and that could be, I don't know, a dressing or a dip for roasted veggies. So you've still got that profile and you're using all those ingredients. You're not letting that chunk of ginger that you bought go to waste, and you still have room to be creative. Okay, so that's a fun strategy. Let's say you wanted to do Italian or Greek. So for Italian, you could use a jar of oil-packed anchovies. Like that's something you'll use 2 anchovies, and then the jar will sit in your fridge for a month or forever, really. But this time you're gonna use it all because you're gonna make a sauce with the anchovies for pasta. You're gonna make a marinade for some pork chops. You can do all these things with like anchovies, tomato sauce, basil, oregano, garlic oil. So those are your ingredients for your Italian flavor profile. Okay, so the next strategy number 4 for meal planning with flavor and variety, is to leave yourself room to be creative. Sorry, I'm looking down at my laptop at my notes, okay? So this is how I see it. Some of the best meals happen when you're just, sorry, my light is shifting. This time of day is so hard. Some of the best meals happen when you kind of just randomly put together a meal based on what you have on hand. And I know this happens to me, and I've heard other people tell me the same thing. So when you're just like raiding the fridge and it's like everything but the kitchen sink, and you end up creating a really great dish that you duplicate again and again, and it becomes a favorite. So to make sure that you have room for this kind of creativity, buy an extra piece of meat and cook it and keep it in the freezer. So anytime you put something in the oven, let's say you put a pork tenderloin in the oven, why not put some chicken thighs in at the same time? Cook them, just season them with salt and pepper, and put them in the freezer. So then you've got things to play with on hand. You can also keep ready-to-eat foods on hand that you can kind of make meals around. So some examples of those would be smoked salmon, canned tuna in olive oil. That's one of my favorites, actually. Like, these are things that will keep for weeks and weeks on hand. I mean, canned tuna, or the tuna in a jar, those really nice ones that are olive oil packed, they're delicious, and they're nothing like regular straight up American style canned tuna. So you can make a salad with that. You can make a quinoa bowl with that. So having those things on hand gives you room to be creative. And even more things like, what else is there? Frozen shrimp, whether it's cooked or raw. I mean, to just like hurry up and cook up some shrimp, that's super easy. Sardines, those are one of my favorites, and they're not for everyone, but if you like kind of funky flavors, those can make really, really tasty meals with pasta, with quinoa, with rice, with salad. It's endless. So leaving yourself room to be creative by kind of stocking yourself with those ingredients to play with can be really fun. Okay, and my last strategy for meal planning, my last of my 5 top tips is, this is for you if you have, this is for you if you want variety, but you don't want to cook every night and you have a lot of nights, especially during the week, when there is zero time for you to prep anything. So you're someone who wants to do the big casserole or do the big crock pot meal. So my advice for that is, instead of just making a big old crock pot, you know, whatever chicken thing, and like letting it stay in the fridge and pulling it out day after day, and eating the exact same dinner, what I think you should do instead is cook 2 meals on Sunday. So do, let's say, a casserole or a big, I don't know, roast chicken breasts and veggies or something like that, and then do a crock pot meal and leave out enough for that day and for the next day, and then freeze individual portions. So as the week goes on, you've got these 2 big recipes that you cooked, you'll have enough for the entire week, and then you can switch off. You can just defrost 1 portion at a time, and you're not just pulling out the exact same meal over and over and over, which can be nice, it's convenient, but at the same time, it gets old. I mean, it just does. And I love leftovers as much as anyone, but with the strategy where you can switch off, it's a lot nicer, okay? So those are my top 5 meal planning tips. If you have any questions, feel free to type it in. You can always go back and rewatch these Facebook Live videos, which I love, but I will quickly recap it for you. So, number 1 was to choose sauce-based recipes and double up the sauce and use it in 2 totally different ways. Number 2 was to follow the second night salad rule. So every time you cook a protein, pick up 1 or 2 salad ingredients and then repurpose that dinner into a salad. So all you're doing is maybe making a dressing or a simple vinaigrette, whatever you like, and you've got a meal for the following night. Strategy number 3 is to choose a flavor profile every time you shop. So buy all the ingredients for Greek food. Buy lemon, buy Kalamata olives, feta, mint, oregano, and do Greek chicken, do Greek fish, do a Greek salad. And you get to use up all your ingredients, save money, and still be creative. Okay, strategy number 4 is to make those big dishes, but make 2 of them and freeze individual portions so you can switch off throughout the week. And I forgot to add, you can also mix up your side dishes with that. So just simple salads added to those leftovers can make it seem kind of like a fresh, nice meal and not just, you know, desperation leftovers. Okay, and strategy number 5 is to just kind of stack the deck in your favor when it comes to being creative. So that means keeping an extra roast chicken in the freezer, or cooking a chicken and cooking a pork tenderloin at the same time. So you have different ingredients to play with, keeping easy to use ingredients like smoked salmon on hand, so that on one of those nights where you just don't know what's going on, you've got sort of random things to play around with and invent new recipes. So those are my 5 meal planning strategies, and I hope at least 1 or 2 of those you haven't heard before. And it's really stuff that I've started to do because I am, without a doubt, a foodie, and I love food, and I'll eat just about anything because I love to eat. So I do like the variety, and I like the freedom to be creative and come up with new ideas. So that is me for today. If you do have questions after watching this and it's not live, add it in the comments and let me know what you think of these tips. And like I said, I'm talking about meal planning because I'm getting ready for this presentation next week, which you are part of if you bought the Cookbook Deluxe Bundle. And if you have not, you can still get it if you want it on calmbellykitchen.com. I'll actually put the link to the cookbook page in the comments, but thank you so much for everyone who watched, and you can always watch the replay. And yeah, let me know if you have questions, all right? I will talk to you soon. Have a good night. Bye.